Hey guys, this is kind of a video update, I guess. I don't really do this format of video very often, but I'd like to do a little more. Um, I wanted to talk today about reasons why I want to quit cannabis. And I want to put these reasons out kind of into the world via this platform for myself because I keep trying to quit and I just keep coming back to it. I keep relapsing. And I think the things that we speak into reality uh, often come true if we just get out there and say we're going to do something. The fact that people kind of expect it, uh, well, no one's really going to expect it from me off of just this one video, but it's a self expectation, kind of putting your word out into the world and saying you'll do something helps rather than just thinking it. Um, and this is a gaming channel mostly, so I know that a lot of people on here are smokers. A lot of people are cannabis enthusiasts, and man, I have been a cannabis enthusiast for 20 years. So I'm not trying to rip apart weed and say weed is bad for everybody, but I have gotten to a point where pretty much every time I smoke or eat or dab or whatever it is that I'm doing, vape, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like it's helping me. It's leaving me more stressed, more tired. And I think it's just sort of spiritually dimmed me. Like, I'm a very spiritual person, but I think it's just kind of made me stop turning towards that part of myself. And I am a heavy user, and I know why I'm a heavy user. It's because I've carried a ton of pain with me through my whole life, but my adult life as well. Sort of emotional stuff. I learned early as a child that I had to kind of keep the peace. I had to diminish myself in order to not upset the people around me. And I love my parents. My parents are still together. They fought for us, but they were carrying some pretty heavy trauma burdens themselves, I think. And it's something that I didn't want to process, um, emotions, basically. And I think as all people can relate to that on some degree. I think men have it particularly hard in this day and age of kind of being told they need to be a blind emotional mask, not show anything, or show only anger. My problem is that I don't know how to show anger. I keep it all in, and it's like poison, and it's caused me a lot of issues with my body, with my mind. I mean, I've been in mental hospitals. I've been in hospitals for my back. Um, no one can quite figure out what's happening with me with all these different symptoms. And I think what I've kind of figured out is I just haven't processed what I need to process yet. And the biggest and best way that I've kind of hidden from feeling anything has been weed. Like, um, it's been my absolute crutch. It's been my drug. And I've messed with amphetamines. I've messed with downers. I've messed with alcohol pretty heavily. But the one that sticks, and the one that I keep coming back to, is cannabis, because it's just a numbing agent. And right when it hits, it makes me feel motivated. It makes me feel inspired. It makes me feel good. It's the perfect panacea to all of my symptoms and all of my ailments. But in the long run, it's just burning me out. It's fatiguing me. I think I'm more anxious. I'm living in kind of a private parallel world that is parasocial, and it's slowly killing me. I think the hardest thing about weed is that the addiction, if you do get addicted to it, it sneaks up over years. It's not something like if your family member starts using fentanyl right now, you're going to know about it within a couple weeks that something's wrong. At least you're going to know, like, something has changed. something bad is happening in this person's life, and things are kind of falling apart fast. Same with amphetamines. Same with alcohol even. Same with alcohol, especially for some people. But cannabis is slow, and it also has some real benefits. So it's hard because it's like, oh, this drug is, it's a pain reliever, and it's an attitude adjustment, and it helps me with my fatigue, and it's got all these sort of wonderful things. But I just sort of wonder at the end of the day, like, do I have these fatigue symptoms and this anxiety that the cannabis helps me so much with because of the cannabis? Because I started at 13 and never let my brain develop fully and never processed emotionally what I needed to process? And I'm kind of reckoning with that. And full disclosure, I'm high right now. I've had an edible. I've had like 50 milligrams of an edible. I've had a big ass blunt today. Actually less than normal because I am trying to move towards this. So you can see how sober I can sound even under the influence of an edible and a blunt within the last couple hours. I'm well saturated in THC for sure. And every time I try to quit, it is hell. Look, to people who say that weed isn't addictive or it has no withdrawals, it's like, no, you're wrong. So I wrote out a list of reasons why I want to stop. And it's a pretty long list. And I put a page on the other side of my little book over here where I might write some reasons why I would want to keep smoking weed, but I don't really have any at this point. And that was not true even 2 years ago. Like, look, I think it's always a cost-benefit analysis, but it's just been this sort of slow, diminishing returns. And I've tried to quit a number of times. I've quit for 6 months. Like, I have taken tea breaks, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, here is the list of reasons that I am saying personally for myself are reasons why I want to stop doing this drug and want to just be sober. I haven't been sober in a long time. I will be less anxious. I don't think that'll be true for the first month, but I do think I'm less anxious without it. I will be less tired. Now, one of the reasons I use it is because I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, I need a little motivation boost, but I think that most of my fatigue comes from smoking. And let me tell you, at 34 years old, the hangovers are getting worse. Like, if you're 20, you don't get a weed hangover. It doesn't mean anything to you. You're like, no, hangovers are alcohol. But there's a real, particularly if you heavily use. I will be more disciplined. I let things fall by the wayside when I'm smoking heavily. I don't take care of stuff. I let things pile up. My desk drawers turn into just chaos. My bedroom turns to chaos. I don't clean my room. I won't be bombarding my stomach with food. I have digestive issues, kind of IBS type stuff. What symptom don't I have, right? And getting high, I just start eating like crazy. I'm a naturally skinny person, so it doesn't cause me like body image issues how much I eat when I get high, but my stomach doesn't feel good, and I don't think that any stomach likes having food being crammed down it all the time. I think that breaks and intermittent fasting is a really good thing to do for yourself for a number of health reasons. And when I'm getting high every day, there is no thought of intermittent fasting. It's every half hour I need to put something in my mouth. I will be forced to learn social skills. This is a big one for me and a hard one for me. I am not going to say that I'm autistic, but I think that socially I am lacking in certain ways, and I have a brain that is a little different. I definitely turn to comedy always as my go-to to make people around me comfortable, make people laugh. Again, the people pleaser thing, not actually saying what I mean all the time, white lies, exaggerating myself a little bit in order to impress, kind of making up for something. And all of this, I just need to get over myself. There's definitely an element of that with ego. It's like, dude, you need to just get over yourself and just be yourself, because you haven't been. You've been kind of masking and covering everything up, and you've had a good reason to, but now it's time to learn some social skills, because I am a loner. I've always been a loner, and at the same time, I'm a very social type. I am very interested in people. I like people. I spend a lot of time on social video games like World of Warcraft, I think, because, well, for one, I can parse the social world if it's mostly just text and then audio when I'm in Discord. I get really nervous around most people, and weed definitely brings down that nervousness. It also helps me be funny. It's kind of like alcohol for other people. For me, it kind of is like a social lubricant. It gets me going. It gets me saying stuff. It gets me popping. But it's not necessarily what I need right now. Okay, I will feel emotions. I've heard someone say about quitting weed that the best thing that's going to happen is that you're going to feel your emotions again. The worst thing that's going to happen is that you're going to feel your emotions again. And I'm scared. I am scared of what's going to come out. I'm scared of the depression that's going to come. Like, there's going to be a real cost, and there's going to be kind of a path of hell that I have to walk through to kind of get my brain back. And that's mostly the type kind of withdrawals and the depression and the anhedonia, which is like lack of interest in anything, lack of pleasure in doing anything. It's terrifying for me. It's really painful. It's like a month-long process at first, but for the kind of clear withdrawal symptoms to pass through. But I think there's kind of a lingering depression, and I know that if you're a heavy user, your body naturally produces cannabinoids, and it has receptors for cannabinoids. Cannabinoids govern pleasure, motivation, sleep. I think those are the three main things that they work on. And when you heavily use, your body's supposed to have them, and it's supposed to be producing them to kind of, a little more when you need this, a little less when you need that. Boom, boom, boom. You confuse that system, and then eventually, if you're a heavy user, you just stop producing them at all. And so you now do not have this chemical in your brain. You're supposed to have some of your own version of that chemical, the endocannabinoids, but your brain just stops producing them. And it can take up to 6 months to a year for a brain to properly recover from that and actually fully be producing, what a sober brain would be. So that's a big journey. Like, if it does take a year, and if you're someone like me who's been eating edibles a lot, doing a lot of dabs, high concentrate stuff, smoking and vaping at the same time. I mean, I'm the type of guy that's got a blunt and a blunt and a vape, blunt and vape, blunt and vape, blunt and vape. Sometimes, like, that's how bad I am. I will stick to plans. This is a big one, because I don't stick to all my plans, and I make a lot of plans, and I think that weed actually helps me make plans. I got a lot of ideas. I can even problem solve on it. It's just a question of doing it. I get like a task paralysis on it, and I just can't do anything but sort of navel gaze, listen to music, scroll on YouTube, maybe watch pornography, and smoke and smoke and smoke and eat and eat and eat and game and game and game, and I just don't get anywhere. And I want to actually make plans and see them through. I mean, I have a business that I want to grow, multiple businesses that I want to grow that all kind of work together. I want to grow a YouTube channel. I want to make YouTube a business of mine, maybe not full time, but I want to entertain people. I want to talk to people. I want to educate people. I'm in construction. I build fences and decks in Oregon. And I do that as my own business. So I do that mostly through Craigslist. I think one thing that's been hard for me is that I've been able to do all that stuff and be getting really, really high. Like, I can succeed to some degree. I can do a lot of interesting stuff, but I'm not feeling good while I'm doing it. I'm not really enjoying it. And also, I get burnt out so much and so often. Every summer, I got to take weeks off because I hit some depression and fatigue. And I just, I can organize these complex projects and get them done for a while. But then the other shoe drops and I am just exhausted because I have been stoning myself to death so I can just battle with myself. Difficulty mode on ultra. And there's part of me that likes that because I kind of, it's like almost like a self-abusive thing. Like, I don't know. This whole video is just me squinting into the sun. I don't know. The lighting seemed cool. I'm learning about lighting. Maybe don't stare right into the sun for a video. Maybe do. Maybe it makes you look more high. Anyways, another one is that I think that I will quit watching porn as well if I stop smoking. I've seen a couple of videos on the relationship between it, but it's this sort of instant gratification cycle. And porn is just, it's kind of like the same thing. Like, go somewhere else and experience something else and pleasure and it's all kind of feeding into this hedonic cycle of eat, ejaculate, smoke, pleasure, 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 try to mask the pain, numb, 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 numb. And I think if you take out one pillar, the others might start to fall. Or maybe I'll get completely cross-addicted to other stuff. But, you know, the goal is to heal from the need to mask and process, not specifically heal from one substance, one activity, one behavior. You know, I think if you get over the root issue, which is almost always going to be trapped emotion, unprocessed emotion, I think that's just where addiction comes from. Call it trauma. That's a more modern word. For some people, that's triggering, that word. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it, just sort of unprocessed stuff from your childhood is what you're trying to cover up. You're always trying to cover something up. I will be more confident. I think this is true. I do suffer from confidence issues. It's hard for me to get up on this video. In some ways, weed makes me more confident in the moment, but I think long term, like across the whole arc of my life, I have become less confident in myself. I've sort of been more self-critical after a while, particularly when I chronically have smoked for months and months and months. There's a lot of self-critical voices. There's a lot of voices that say I can't, and it feels like I can actually blame the weed for a lot of that. I'm going to say this. I will be actually more creative. Now, one of the alluring things about weed for me is that it makes me feel so creative. And I do come up with creative ideas. And I definitely have to write them down in order for them to ever happen. But I probably write down about 100 ideas to every one that I actually even begin to move on. And 1 in 1,000 actually something that I finish. It's alluring because it makes you feel like you're more creative. I'm not sure that it actually does. I think once I've kind of gotten through this withdrawal period and processing, I think I will be, you know, the word creative is not about ideas, right? It's about create is in the root of the word. And I think that I will actually be, you know, if I can get through to the other side and also process some of this emotional stuff and actually get through some of the fucking baggage and the shit that I've been carrying around with me for 34 years, then I think I'll be able to create again. I mean, I've been creating in a sense that I've been making videos and stuff, but it's been a while since I made an art project for me, just for the sake of it, no, without even, you know, necessarily thinking about publishing it. This is my hope, that quitting cannabis would lead to maybe a smaller scope, less ideas every second that I'm going to do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do that, and more like I'm going to act on these 2 projects. I'm going to act on this one project. I'm going to do a piece of this project here, and then I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to leave that to the fall because I don't have the energy right now to do that, but I want that to be actionable, and then I'll actually, in the fall, act on that. I won't have to make plans and excuses around weed. I feel like I'm always thinking, when am I going to smoke? I mean, I love flower. I love the smelliest. The smelliest version I love. So in Oregon, it's pretty easy to just walk around and smoke in most situations, but I do deal with clients. I do deal with customers. I do go to social obligations related to work sometimes. And then also, my parents have kind of wanted me to quit for a long time, and I don't like being high around them. And, my dad was a very heavy smoker as well until about 5 years ago. So I've had a role model. I've had an adult doing it and kind of stuck in the same pattern all my life. I'm really proud of him for getting away from it, and I think it's been good for him. But, yeah. I make small excuses. I tell little lies that I will never get called on or caught. I don't tell big lies, but I make little excuses. Oh, somebody wants me to come look at a job. My cat's foot is hurt. Let me come tomorrow. And it's just kind of a mañana, push stuff off sort of thing. So, a lot of excuses, a lot of backing out of plans that would be probably healthy and good for me, and I know would be healthy and good for me. And a lot of tiny lies. I think one of the things about cannabis that really is starting to hurt me and bother me spiritually and doesn't line up with who I think I am is all the tiny lying and sometimes the exaggerating. It just feels like I'm not my most honest me, and I'm starting to realize that plant has been kind of doing that to me. It's like a full-time, people refer to ganja as a female, and it's like a full-time girlfriend. She wants so much of me, like, that I can't necessarily give my best self to the rest of life because I'm sneaking off with her. And it does make me sneak. It turns me into kind of a golem, a Smeagol type, my precious type of thing. And I've done weird shit for weed too, man. Like I've been out of money and pulled a wet joint out of like the wet fucking end of a joint out of a rainy gutter where I dropped it the night before, and I'll fucking heat it up in the microwave or in the oven to try to dry it out and just smoke this tiny little bit of weed. It's like, what are you doing, dude? That's fucking insane behavior. Just like, that's trash. And I'm not proud of that, but, it's definitely turned me into a Smeagol type, and it's like, what is that? Okay, almost done. I will feel like exercising. Every time that I quit, I start to enjoy exercising. And some of the ways that I've relapsed a couple times is like, oh, I love exercising so much now, I'm going to go for a run and I'm going to get high first. Because if I exercise, that's not a bad reason to get high. So let's get high. And then 2 weeks later, I'm not running anymore. I will make new types of friends. This is a hard one for me because most of my social world is with people who smoke pot. Both digitally and in real life. Spend a lot of time playing video games, listening to people cough because they're smoking weed or talking about weed, and it is in my face digitally as well as with the people I'm around. But that's a hard thing to give up as well, and it's an easy way to make friends. I don't think you make the deepest of friendships through it, but it's an easy way to start talking to people and get into a philosophical conversation and stuff like that. It's almost like a shortcut for that. And that's, honestly, I've connected mostly in my adult life through weed with other people, and it's helped me. It's like, I want to say this in some ways about this plant. It's like, it was helpful. It's been helpful. It was useful for me socially from the beginning, and it's just diminishing returns. And not the type of diminishing returns that you can fix with a tea break, with like a 6-month hiatus from weed. It's like, no, this doesn't work for me as an adult anymore because I will always use this to sort of numb and comfort. But anyways, I will finally commit to responsibility. I have flirted with having an employee in my fencing business for a few years now. And I have plenty of guys, I speak Spanish. I have plenty of guys who will work for me um, for cash, and they're ready to go, and they're calling me asking when can I work. They like me. They like that the boss speaks Spanish on my scene and pays well in cash and is friendly and will buy some cerveza at the end of the day. Um, but the hard part about me is signing one of these guys up or signing another person up and then saying, okay, like in sort of a longer term sense, like these guys are okay to for me to hire for one day to do some project or something, but what they want and really what I want too, so I can leave my business alone and kind of let it manage itself sometimes, is to have them steadily employed and have them come every day. But that's a whole leap that's really hard for me. To make. I mean, it sounds really good on paper. Oh yeah, they're you're gonna have somebody working for you. It's gonna make everything easier. But it's like, oh, did you think about the fact that now you need to show up every day, at least in some format? You need to at least have something arranged for that person to go do, even if you don't go there. And it's kind of suddenly like, oh well, you can't take a couple weeks off now. And I find that I definitely use cannabis to kind of escape from responsibilities and that sort of thing. And I will find my reaction to taking on more responsibilities that I start smoking heavier because I I don't know. The responsibility scares me. It's a fear thing. I think I'm just acting automatically out of fear. Um, and that's one of the emotions that I want to fight through, is that fear of responsibility, that fear of stepping up, that fear and thought that I can't step up, or I'm not good enough to step up. And I think that's sort of the pernicious way that weed will slowly stunt you in terms of your growth, in terms of your spirituality, is that it will make making moves like that kind of impossible to reach in your mind. And in some ways, I'm an impressive example of somebody fighting against that and like being able to start businesses while being super stoned and um, doing all sorts of stuff, still having projects, having a garden and but I'm not happy while I'm doing it. My dad was the same way. He was so impressive. He's the most impressive stoner you've ever met. Bong rips at 7:30 a.m. and he's off to the races with a big to-do list, and he's got his life together mostly, but emotionally he wasn't. And emotionally I'm not either. As impressive as the complex things I am doing are, I'm not 100%, and I want to be, because I'm plateaued. This YouTube thing is fun and new and interesting, but I'm kind of bringing the same energy to it, where it's like, yeah, okay, I'm not making the best videos that I could. I'm very much leaning towards a no edits thing. I think that's actually smart, but I think like a couple edits and maybe a nice thumbnail, something like that, a little more effort would probably take my channel further, faster. Now, do I have to get everything right in every aspect of my life? No, I don't. But I want to see myself stop taking shortcuts, and I think that weed makes me take shortcuts. It just makes me skip over the difficult stuff. Okay. I will be able to meditate sober. I believe in meditation. I've done a 10-day silent meditation at a sort of a yoga school in southern Mexico. That was like the hardest thing I've ever done. And that was a sober experience. I think that we could heal the planet if everybody meditated 10 to 15 minutes a day, at the same time. I'm a believer in it, and I don't practice it because I can't do it while I'm high. I just can't. I cannot get myself to sit. Which makes sense, because the exact mechanism of getting high on cannabis and what I'm doing there is trying to not feel myself, right? So, I And I try, and I do it. I can sit for 10 minutes while I'm stoned out of my mind. I can force myself to sit with an alarm, but it's not giving me the effect of meditation, not the actual calm stillness. It's warped. I'm stoned. It's not me. It's not me actually noticing me because I'm filtering it through something. It's not sober. So yeah, that's one of the saddest things for me about my weed addiction has been um, not being able to meditate, because I do think that I should be, and I think that all people should be, or praying, whatever form of finding stillness and harmony with whatever creator or creative energy you believe you came from. So yeah, it's sad that I'm not meditating, and that's a huge goal of mine, is to get to a place where I'm sober in the morning. I will be more present. I think this one, I don't think I even need to go into this one after what I just said, but in day-to-day moments, not meditating, I want to sometimes just feel the trees around me, feel the wind, not have my mind kind of racing and also a little warped from the stoned feeling. Just, oh, I'm just here. And I don't know what that's like. My body doesn't know what that's like. And yeah, it's been a long time since my body's known what that's like. And I want to feel it again. And I'm grieving the fact that I haven't for so long. Finally, this is the last thing on my list. My spiritual life will grow. I really think that will be true. I'm trying to find the words to say kind of why or what that is, but I'm not sure I need to fully explain it. It's just something that I know in my bones, is that spiritually, when I step away from my relationship with this plant and step into kind of more of a relationship with reality, less of a filter on it, less of a constant filter on it, that I'm going to start to grow spiritually, and my appreciation for the world and for the creator and the created is going to grow. And I think that my harmony is going to grow, and my grace and my ability to forgive others is going to grow. And I might even start going to a church on Sundays, which is not something that's really been possible with how stoned I want to be Sunday mornings. So, yeah. Finally, really quickly, I just wrote out some things that I think will be threats to sobriety I'm not going to say when I do this, which needs to be this month. Should be now. If you're trying to quit, the real answer is now. Do it now. But, this is a difficult thing to withdraw from if you're a heavy user. So, make sure you have a space to do that, and you have some sort of support if you can, if you have it, even if it's a pet. Make sure you're hydrated. Make sure you have something to do, but not too much. And I think the real answer is to reach out for support, which I'm trying. I think one of the biggest things for me was to just email my parents, who I'm very close with, and who've been kind of helping me in my health journey. And I've had a pretty difficult road with health. But I emailed them and I said, hey, I'm back to getting high every day again. And I just said it, and I had been sneaking it and not telling them, and kind of maintaining that I was sober. And that was a couple nights ago. I ripped the Band-Aid off and just emailed them and brought it out into the light. And I think that's one of the best things you can do, and actually asking for support. So I'm going to ask people that I know who don't smoke weed in my life if they can help me stay accountable. I'm going to set a date. You know, I already 3 times this year relapsed, and it's only March, including a January 1st, New Year's, I'm never going to smoke again declaration, which, by the way, I wouldn't do a binary black and white never again thing. I would stick with more with how the 12-step program says, just for today. Like, just try to get through today and see how those days stack up and start becoming proud of the time that you've spent sober. Again, I'm high right now, so don't listen to me, but just some thoughts. So threats to my sobriety, I think, would definitely be challenges at work. I'm in a line of work where, you know, something can go wrong, or you can hit something when you're digging a post hole, and all of a sudden, you know, you're looking at the numbers and you're going to get paid less because you have to spend an extra day that wasn't in the budget. Those days are hard, and they're hard to process emotionally. I don't think they have to be hard. I think you can definitely take it on the chin, and some people are better at that, but for me, it's like, well, I fucked up. And I think an instant reaction of mine is going to be, I need some weed. And I've seen it happen to me before. It's something that I know I need to watch out for. If something, it doesn't have to be work, but something stressful happens, it's like, I don't want to feel this. Let's go to the weed store. The second thing on my list is boredom. I think this is obviously something that everybody is going to kind of deal with. I think we get high because we're bored. It's like, I think boredom is a trauma response and to begin with, but that's a whole nother story, and I'm not a psychologist. But what do you do with boredom? And I guess the answer is to stay busy, but again, not too busy, and that's a hard balance to find. So, you know, video games help, but video games can be another sort of self-reinforcing, addictive, don't feel your emotions sort of thing if you're not careful. So I'm cautious about saying, oh yeah, keep some video games around, but man, if you can play board games with someone who's sober, I would say try to stay away from television, try to stay away from scrolling. You know, it's going to be hard in the first few weeks, but some sort of new hobby. It could be as simple as a coloring book. You know, if I'm this person that's like, oh, I'm not creative enough. I'm not painting. I used to paint. I used to draw. I used to do this. I used to do that. And I don't produce anymore. And it's like, well, okay, but you're doing something different, for one. But also get a coloring book. Like, don't try so hard to, I gotta paint my masterpiece tonight. That's how I always am. It's like, it's black and white. Am I gonna paint my masterpiece tonight, or I'm not? I'm a failure, or I'm a success. It's like, no, you need to just touch a pen to paper. You need to take a coloring pencil and you need to just color like a kid for a bit, just to get your hand moving again. That's what you need, not to paint your masterpiece. But anyways, here I say wintertime / holidays. It could be any holiday, and you could be anywhere around the globe with this sort of cannabis addiction issue. And it could be a problem. For me, wintertime, it's a double because it's Christmas and Thanksgiving, and it's all this family, and it's stressful. And again, I'm socially anxious, and I have social skill issues, and it's the hottest battleground for your social stuff is going to be with your own family. And then for me, it's just the winter time up here. I'm pretty up close towards Canada, and it's dark. And during those months, I definitely relapse more if I'm trying to quit, smoke more if I am smoking, quit less if I am smoking. It's a warm blanket that I feel like I need every winter. But the holiday thing, just be really gracious with yourself around sort of heavy social engagement, particularly with family, or with kind of like the better you know people, the more volatile things can get. So just rest. Take time outs. Take times to nap when you're doing the holiday and family thing. A big one for me is a sudden sense of excitement and energy. This happens a lot where I'm like, I've quit smoking pot for like a month. And I think I do start feeling better physically all of a sudden, which is good. I need to focus on that. I need to remember that that happens. And all of a sudden I get going again and I start getting into a groove that I hadn't been able to access when I was smoking. And my lungs clear out and I have energy and I want to exercise and I want to start new projects. And then I get going and it's actually going pretty good for like a week. And I'm like, hey, things are going good. That means I can smoke. Also, I want a reward for how good things are going. Things are swinging. This is kicking. Like, let's smoke. That is the most dangerous place for me. And that's where I always fall down. Is like, oh, I'm good. It isn't the weed, man. I just needed to get my head back on and now I'm grooving. So what's groovier than smoking, right? And in that moment, that's the most convincing argument in the world. I don't have a good plan written out for this. I am going to write a plan out. I think it's good to write sort of an executable plan for some of this stuff. When you're dealing with addiction, deal with it like a not a math problem, but like a homework problem. You know, like research it a bit and get into it, even while you're still getting high, if you can. Of course, there's some drugs that are not going to let you do that. Even including alcohol, it's probably not going to. You're not going to. If you're really addicted to alcohol, you're not going to journal out. You're not going to journal out, a strategy. But if you're just getting high on weed, I know you can pick up a pen for 15 minutes and start writing down a plan at least. Like, when do I want to quit? What will it look like? What am I going to have to watch out for? That's what I'm doing. And then I'm putting it into a video to try to help reinforce it to myself. Really, this video is for me more than anyone else. I wrote here social events. It's kind of the same thing, but as the holidays, but parties. Where's the line? And do you go over to people's houses that smoke weed openly? I probably can't. I probably can't be around it at all because I have a lizard brain that's going to go. But yeah. And I'd say be very wary of drinking. I'll talk about that in a second. But, I don't have a problem with alcohol per se in the same sense as I do with like a long-term chronic problem. It's gotten me into trouble. I've had weeks where I was drinking a lot of liquor. But, it's not. I'm not innocent with alcohol by any means. I would call myself a somewhat of an alcoholic. Or at least an alcohol addict at times. But I'm pretty good at controlling myself with alcohol. Or at least I stay in control with alcohol, mostly. But I do think my decision making gets impaired. And I don't get myself into trouble on alcohol. But I will get myself into trouble like, hey, I'm feeling pretty good tonight. Like, what make this a little better is to get crossfaded. Throw a little joint in there. Into the night won't hurt. I won't even remember it, basically. That's not true. I remember everything when I drink. But, just this tonight, right? But then you wake up with a hangover and you have a double hangover. You got the weed hangover too, right? To me, being a little sloppy with alcohol, probably looking for a bit of a different addiction, has gotten me in trouble. Watch out for cocaine at parties. Watch out for, you may not even be going to a weed-related party, but just that idea of like, I'm going to go do something in order to change how I feel. I mean, even watch out for your fucking coffee in the morning. Consider all these things. Why do I need this thing? What is this doing? Am I trying to not feel something because of it? Finally, just feeling uninspired. I guess this is like boredom, but just motivation issues are going to be a real threat. It's like, I know the first time I hit a sativa or sativa hybrid weed in the morning, if I haven't smoked recently, if I've been resting from THC, the first time I hit it, even for the first 5 days of using again, I am motivated. I am dancing around the house. I'm happy. I'm like a little house fairy. I'm doing my thing and I'm grooving and music sounds good, blah, 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 blah. I'm eating, I'm cooking because I like to eat, but then those things, the activity of it starts to kind of fade and it becomes more ideas based and more in my head. And then I'm more paralyzed doing stuff. And it takes a while though. But at first, it's a very inspiring drug. It cures my ADHD in a way. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. That's fine. I'm happy. I'm high. It's just a long term. A week of smoking from 7 a.m. to bedtime. At least in my case, slowly diminishes that benefit. I will not deny that benefit of the first, the first go. Finally on my list is cross addiction, which kind of talked about the alcohol, but just I got to be careful with all substances. All right. You're good.